All right, hello. Today we're making a German chocolate cake, a boxed German chocolate cake at that. If you're new to my channel, I am Clarissa the Bo Queen, and welcome. So we're making this German chocolate box cake. The ingredients that you're going to need is 3 eggs. You're going to need some oil and water, and that's pretty much it. And the extra ingredient that I add to this is some Swiss Miss, the hot chocolate mix. It will enhance the flavor of the cake. Now, one special main ingredient for a homemade German chocolate cake is the chocolate. So you can buy the chocolate maybe in the baking section of the grocery store where they have the chocolate for baking cakes and whatever. So when you buy that chocolate, you are going to have to, bring it home, and you're going to have to cut the chocolate up yourself, um, and mix it in with the cake. So me buying the hot cocoa mix kind of bypasses that cutting up the chocolate and all of that stuff because that takes time. And so I just thought to do this. So now we already added the Swiss Miss. We're adding 3 brown eggs. Brown eggs is good for baking. Like I said, I don't know why, but they're better for baking. But you can use white eggs. You don't have to use just brown. All right. And then it requires, I want to say, a half a cup of oil and 1 cup of water. So 1 cup of water. That's 1 cup. And then a half a cup of cooking oil. Now, from my understanding, I think some people that's a half a cup of cooking oil. Now, when you're baking a cake, if you don't have cooking oil, a thing you can substitute for the oil is applesauce. I know that may sound crazy, but applesauce. Okay. I think I did try to bake a cake like that one time. I didn't have no oil, and you can use applesauce, but it turned out good. So but I did have oil this time. Now I'm getting my mixer. I don't have the mixer with the bowl. I just have a handheld mixer. But whatever you have, just use whatever you have. Um, so I'm mixing this on kind of low. I think I put it to like 2 or 3. I think 2 because it just it 3 is too powerful. If you put it on 3, you'll have all the cake mix just splattering out of the bowl and onto everywhere. So I think I put it on like 2. So we're mixing this really good, making sure all the lumps are out of the cake mix. So you want to do this for about a minute or so, maybe a minute or 2. Sometimes I go back a second round, do it for another 2 minutes. Now, when you taking the beats from the mix, you saw how I lift up the mixer, the handheld mixer. It's just to make sure you get that excess cake batter or cake mix off those beats. And then we're going to take the spatula. We're going to go around the whole perimeter of the bowl to make sure that there's not any cake mix that wasn't blended into the batter, wasn't left behind. And if it was, now it's getting incorporated in with the mix. So this is very I would recommend this because a lot of times when you're baking a cake and you just use your handheld mixer or even the bowl that's electric, sometimes a lot of times that mixer doesn't catch all of the cake powder, and it'll still be some left, and then it doesn't look right. I mean, the cake is not gonna turn out right if you don't mix it very well. Make sure all the mix is incorporated and make sure that it's mixed very well. So this is my second round with the handheld mixer. going in just to make sure, double checking to make sure that it is all blended in. And this is going to be done for another minute or two. And that's perfect to turn in a bowl as the handheld mixer does the work. And now we are finished. We're lifting up those beets so to get the excess cake mix off. Now we're getting our pans ready. We're gonna grease these pans with some Crisco, and you can grease your cake pans how you like to grease them. You can grease them with cooking oil, but today we are using Crisco shortening sticks. They're good for baking. We're gonna use those, but like I said, you can use I don't know if some people. And we're taking a paper towel, and we are scraping the Crisco shortening onto the paper towel so we can spread it onto the pan, the cake pan. And you use a paper towel for this, and I'll show you in a minute how this is going to be useful to grease your cake pans. Now, you don't have to grease your cake pans like this. This is just a method that I've known just growing up, watching my mom, bake her cakes in the kitchen. So, I mean, if you have another way you like to grease your cake pans, you can grease them however you want to do it. But this is the only way I've known ever since I was a little girl. So I just stick to this way, and, but I'm pretty sure there's other ways, but this is the only way I know. All right, so we got the Crisco stick. Normally the Crisco will come in a container, but at the time I think they were sold out. Okay, so I just had to get the sticks, and they work just as well. The sticks. All right, you want to make sure that the pan is real greased. You want to even get it in the creases of the pan. Make sure it is greased all over. Okay, now we're going in with some all-purpose flour to make sure that the whole cake pan is covered with flour. And then you have to do the process of the Crisco first, spreading the Crisco first so that the flour can stick. Okay. And then we're going to place the other cake pan to catch the excess flour from the previous, for the first cake pan. So now you see I'm dumping the excess flour into that one, and you want to go all around that cake pan with that flour. And just as you can see, the flour is sticking to the pan. And that's what it should look like after you have done that, so that the cake will not stick. And we're going to take the same thing. We're going to do it. So this time I had got a bowl. So we're going to add a little bit more flour, kind of like eyeball it, and spread it all around the cake pan. And let's shake the excess off. And it should look like that. Now we're placing the German chocolate cake mix into the cake pans. When you're baking a cake, the best tool to have is a spatula. Don't want to leave any cake mix in the bowl. You want to make sure you get every ounce, if you can, of that cake mix and put it into the pan, because you want to make sure that each layer of cake is even. You don't want the cake to fall. Like my mom said, does fall. And then that way when it bakes in the oven, it'll be even. And another thing, I don't know what it is when my mom is baking a cake. She used to say back in the day, when you're baking a cake, when she bakes her cakes, she doesn't want anybody in the kitchen walking. I don't know why, but she say, I don't know if it messes up the balance of the cake, or I don't know. But I know when she baked the cake, we had to be at the kitchen, because she said something about if you're doing a lot of walking in the kitchen, especially when you have cakes in the oven, the cake could, I don't know, not the layers wouldn't come out right, but I'm not sure of that. But I don't know. But as long as the layers are even. Now I'm going in with the spatula to make sure that there's no lumps, like not lumps, but just make sure that the cake is even, so that when it bakes, each layer is even. All right, for the next step, I got some toothpicks. So the toothpicks is to test the cake out to make sure that it's done. So I think I was baking a red velvet cake at the time. I baked the red velvet. That was in my previous video. And I'm baking the German chocolate. So this one, I think I was checking to see if the cake. Now this is a tester to see if the cake is done. You take a toothpick, and to see if the cake is done. Actually, that cake is not done. Nothing shouldn't be coming on that toothpick. If the cake is done, that toothpick, when you pull it out the center of the cake, it should be clear. It shouldn't have nothing on there. But actually, that one's kind of done, but it's not all the way. So that's why I think I set it back in the oven more. And my advice, when you're baking a cake, please do not put the layers of cake at the bottom rack. Put them at the top, because I think that's why my cakes was stuck to the pan much. And this one definitely not done. When you see it like that, it's not done. That's the whole purpose of the toothpick, is to test the cake to see if it's done. So that's a no-no. That one's not done. So that's the toothpick test right there. No, those are not done. All right, so now we're coming back to test it again. I think I placed it back in the oven. No, I placed it back in the oven. And like I said, it's best to put them on the top rack, so that the cake will not stick to the pan very bad, because I think that was my mistake, what I did, because I was baking 2 cakes at the same time. So there's the German chocolate cake at the top of the oven, and the red velvet is at the bottom. But I think we're going to test it out one more time and see. You place it in the center of the cake. You want to see if the cake is done. Okay, now this one is done. There's hardly nothing on that toothpick. That means that the cake is done. That's how you can test it. So it's good. So I'm just double checking. Now we had a little bit come up, but that's done. It wasn't like the first time. Wasn't like the first time. Now we're coming over here, so I'm showing you. There's the 3. So the first one is a no-no. The second one was a no-no, but the third one, it's not that much on the third one, because it's the red velvet is the coloring of it. So that's how you know it's done. toothpick test. And now you see for yourself close up. That one there, no. The one in the middle, no. And then the one in the end is yes. But that's just the red food coloring if you see that on there. But the third one indicates that it's done. All right, now that we are finished baking it, so you want to let your cakes sit on either a cooling rack. I recommend a cooling rack or a towel. You want to make sure that the cakes are cooled off. All right, so you want to make sure the cakes are cooled off. So the cakes are cool. So I think I'm taking a toothpick and doing the test with the German chocolate. This is the German chocolate. And let's test it out and see if it's done. There, yeah, it's completely done. There's nothing on that toothpick. So it is completely done. Now we're going to go over here and check the other layer of the German chocolate. You just place it in the middle, stick that toothpick in there, and you pull it out, and that is done. Nothing on the toothpick is done. Okay, now we are about to icing this. So we had let the cake cooled off in the cake pans for about however long, about 15-20 minutes. I'm not sure how long it took for them to cool off, but you want to make sure they are cool before you take them out of the pan. And now I'm just going around with a small spatula and just moving it around to make sure that it is not stuck too bad to the pan before I take it out of the pan. So you kind of want to do this kind of gently. You don't want to be too rough because you don't want to mess the cake up and mess it going in so it won't be in half. Break it in half. All right, so this one, I think the German chocolate cake came out better because keep in mind, this one was at the top of the rack. So now watch this. Easily how it came out of the pan. That's how it's supposed to come out. In my previous video, I had a rough time with the red velvet cake because I think I left it bake at the bottom rack, which that was a no-no. I should have put the cake at the top rack in the oven. So now we're going in with the coconut pecan icing. Like I said in the previous video, you want to get 2 of those instead of 1 because only 1 will not cover the whole cake. So I just had to make do what I had to work with. So 1 of those will not work. You would need to buy 2. Okay, buy 2 of those if you're making especially 2 layers. Because only like 1 layer will kind of work for that 1 container. And then that 1 container is 15 ounces. So you definitely would need 2. Okay. So this is the pecan icing. You can make the icing homemade if you want to. I'm not a pro at making the coconut pecan icing, but I'm pretty sure you can find the recipe or buy it out the store like I did. The store-bought kind tastes just as good as the homemade. And now we're evenly spreading this around. And see, I'm just, that was half of a container of the icing. But keep in mind, you have to do the edges of the cake as well. And I think I started running out of icing. And then by the time I realized it, I was like, I should have brought 2 of them. But I cooked this on Thanksgiving Day. So I couldn't go back to the store and buy another container because the grocery stores were closed. So I just had to make do with what I had. But I learned my lesson now. If I ever buy a box cake again, I'm buying 2 things of icing. So that's why I'm telling you guys, make a box cake, buy 2 things of icing so you will not be disappointed because 1 does not cover. Now that one came out really good. And also too, I'm learning from my mistakes so that you won't make it. Please put when you're baking a cake, put it on the top rack and not the bottom. See how easy that came out? Now there will be a little bit of excess flour left, but that's no big deal. The main thing is that it didn't stick to the pan and you was able to easily get it out of the pan. So now we're going to icing the top layer with the pecan icing. And this cake came out good. I just didn't have enough icing, but it still came out good. I had a time icing this cake with the little icing that I had, and I had to kind of stretch the icing, but it still turned out okay. I'm ready to make another one. It looks so good. So now we're going, you want to make sure you do the edges. You want to ice in the edges really good of the cake. And see, this is where I kind of think I started to run out of icing. I was getting kind of mad, but I made it do. As you can see, I put the icing around the edges where it's much needed as well. And we're just scraping it around. The best thing you can use, I'm using a spatula, but you can use a butter knife too as well to ice in the cake. But this is what it looks like, you guys. This is the finished product. This is the German chocolate cake. And you need the coconut pecan icing for it. And I use my cake container or cake storage container from Dollar Tree, only $1.25. And I had a time trying to put this on. But yeah, once after you bake a cake, you can put it in a cake container, or you can put it in a plate, however you want to do it. It is totally up to you. But this is a safe haven for the cake, so I just put it in the container. But I had a time, I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, that is the German chocolate cake in the container. So I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.